Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law cruel for excluding her brother, my husband, from her upcoming wedding? My husband, 32, grew up with one sibling, his sister, 28. Their parents separated, and because of that, they drifted apart because each one of them chose one parent to stay with. He had a rocky relationship with sister-in-law growing up as a result, but later got to work out their differences. My husband is a jokester. Sister-in-law complains about being on the receiving end of his pranks and jokes whenever they spent time together. She claimed that because of him, she lost her high school friends, her high school sweetheart, and lots of self-esteem because his pranks wore her down emotionally and mentally. Now they're in a better place, but old habits die hard, and my husband is still the jokester he was years ago. Sister-in-law got engaged 2 months ago and invited my husband and me. Unfortunately, my husband decided it was a good time to pull a prank on her during the party, and lied about her fiancé's brother having an accident that night. He was joking, of course, but things got out of hands and the party got cancelled. My sister-in-law yelled at my husband and hasn't been speaking to him ever since. Now her wedding is coming up, but she hasn't yet sent her brother an invite. Seeing him sad and depressed made me call her to ask what the deal was. She bluntly said she wasn't going to send him an invite to her wedding after he ruined her engagement party, but I thought that was excessive. First of all, it was a prank, a regular one that he pulls all the time, and she and everyone else reacted over the top. And besides, he already apologized multiple times, and in my opinion that should be enough for him to be granted some grace and forgiveness. She said sorry, but she wasn't going to take a risk and invite him so he'd ruin her wedding. And besides that, her fiancé does not feel comfortable having him there, and she agreed with him. I was stunned and called her cruel, because this is her brother, and he never had malicious intentions towards her. Yet she keeps getting offended and oversensitive over everything he does, and at the end of the day, they're family. She asked that I respect her choice, but I said that is not okay seeing how sad her brother is because he doesn't want to miss her wedding. She ended the call after saying she owes no one nothing. I found that real harsh and cruel, and felt like she keeps punishing him over something that was in the past. My husband started crying when I told him about it, but there were actually some family members agreeing with her decision and telling me off for defending my husband's horrid attitude. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. That's not something to joke about. I know the mental distress of a person who is the recipient of cruel jokes like that. Your husband is an a-hole for thinking that was a funny joke, and you're an a-hole for thinking your sister-in-law is cruel, essentially agreeing with your a-hole husband. You both sound toxic, and I don't blame sister-in-law for cutting you both out. You're the a-hole. Your husband's jokes aren't funny, they're cruel. I grew up with someone like that. When his first wife died, he sent balloons in a pony cart to her parents' house on her birthday so they could take little Joanne for a carriage ride. His own late wife. He thought it was hilarious. Her parents, not so much. Your husband's cut from the same cloth. No wonder she doesn't want him at the wedding. He's likely to stand up and object and claim she has 3 other husbands. You and your husband are raging a-holes. Totally you're the a-hole. When people say the line of, "Oh, it's just a prank," you know deep down they are a-holes as they are trying to cover up being pricks to people by trying to calm down it's a joke bit. As much as you want to try and cover for him, he absolutely had malicious intent towards his sister for traumatizing her for many, many years. Come on, man, it's just a joke. F off with that garbage. I hate the "it's a joke" line. It's a second insult to suggest the person is on the receiving end of cruelty, to suggest they don't have a sense of humor. And it's always said by the bully. And lied about her fiancé's brother having an accident that night. Ha 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 ha. OMG, I can't stop laughing at that one. I'm gonna go tell everyone I know how funny this was. Oh, by the way, my actual brother died in an actual accident, so it's even more thigh-slappingly funny for me. Yeah, you're the a-hole, and you know it. And he's the biggest a-hole of all. That poor bride is probably terrified what will happen to her car, house, friends, or pets while he's banned from the wedding, and desperate to play another hilarious prank. I hope she's got security all around her wedding, home, and possessions. You're the a-hole. Your husband isn't a jokester, he's an infantile bully, and you know it. He has proven time and time again that he can't be trusted. He brought this on himself, and no one else is at fault but him. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my female 28 fiancé male 27 to drop his groomswoman? My fiancé Ben and I met at work. We worked for a tech company where I handled office management stuff, and he was part of the customer support team. His best friend James worked here too, and also a woman, Alex. Before Ben and I started dating, he and James and Alex became a friendship group. The three of them liked a lot of the same hobbies and stuff, and James and Alex encouraged Ben to get training and move from customer support to being a developer like them. When Ben's apartment flooded, he lived with Alex, and even after he moved out, he still hung out there a ton. When Ben and I started dating, I still wasn't bothered by the friendship too much, because it mostly revolved around activities that I wasn't specially interested in, and Alex always seemed supportive of us as a couple. She was also the only woman at the place that worked on the actual tech side of things and not in the office, so it made sense that guys were the only work friends she could have. She and I did try to get together more once Ben and I were a couple, but it kind of trailed off because we just didn't have a lot in common, and it felt like we were trying too hard. I never got the impression she didn't like me or was jealous or whatever, just kind of two different people. Anyway, Ben and I finally got engaged, and we were talking about our bridesmaid and groomsmen choices, and he kind of threw me a curveball and said he wanted Alex as one of his groomswomen. I thought he was kidding and laughed, but he was dead serious, and is including her in all of the bachelor party activities and things as well. It seemed a little odd to me, but I shrugged it off. But then I was in the kitchen the other day while Ben was in the other room at his computer chatting with James and gaming. James asked if Alex was going to be wearing a dress or a suit for the wedding, and Ben said a suit, to which James replied, "She'll be the hottest guy there." Then Ben replied with, "Probably the hottest girl too." Yes, Alex is attractive. She's really tall and stereotypically hot. They laughed, so I wasn't mad quite yet, just chalking it up to stupid banter. Then James said, "For a second there, I thought you two might start dating." And my fiancé came back with, "Yeah, I could never land a girl like that." I sat there in the kitchen totally gobsmacked. Like, how do you not feel like the runner-up? Later, when Ben was done gaming and we were sitting down to eat, I told him I was no longer comfortable with Alex being in the wedding, and he would have to drop her as part of his party. A huge fight ensued, and I told him what I overheard, and he said it was just talk, and he and Alex never dated or had a physical relationship, so I needed to get over it. I feel like I never want to see this person again, especially on my wedding day. But at the same time, I know she has been one of Ben's best friends since before he and I knew each other or were a couple. So am I overreacting? Edited to add, just to be clear, I don't have any problem with Alex as a person, and I'm not mad at her or blaming her. I just don't want a reminder of what Ben said standing up at the altar while I'm getting married. As far as the marriage itself, the situation is less than 48 hours old at this point, so even continuing with the wedding may not be what happens. Oh, honey, the problem here isn't the groomswoman, it's the groom. Best you've figured that out now, and fix it if it can be fixed before diving into a lifetime with Ben. Exactly. Hope he deserves to be with someone who sees her as the most attractive person at her wedding. I hope he's not a consolation prize. Why is she still proceeding with the wedding? She seriously insists on marrying a guy who settled for her and thinks his best friend is the hottest chick? It's mind-blowing for me the pit in which this woman's self-esteem has fallen. You're the a-hole to yourself. Whether or not the wedding will proceed has yet to be determined. I genuinely hope you reconsider marrying this douche. You deserve a man who has eyes only for you. And yes, they exist. Yeah, I could never land a girl like that. I am so sorry that happened. Rethink your wedding because this accidentally let you find out where you stand in his eyes, all the while pretending it was just talk. The only reason they never dated or had a physical relationship is because she can do so much better, not for lack of him wanting to. And so can you. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend her boyfriend is not allowed at my wedding? Anyway, I'm supposed to be getting married early October 2022. It's not going to be a big wedding or anything, But me and my fiance both have friends that we don't want to leave out. I have this friend, Amanda. We have known each other since high school and we aren't incredibly close by any means. But we are still somewhat good friends and hang out regularly, and I would like her to be there. The problem is, I just recently found out who she is dating now, and she wants to bring him as her plus one. My sister Lily and her ex Steve broke up about 10 months ago because she found out he was cheating. She was heartbroken, and I know along with that pain she still has a lot of resentment for him, and doesn't even like hearing his name. He was an awful boyfriend, so my family has no problem with him no longer being in our lives. Then 8 months ago, Amanda told me she had started talking to someone and she really liked him and everything. She wouldn't tell me who, not even his name, because she said she didn't want to share anything about him till it got more serious. I didn't really understand his secrecy, but it didn't force her to tell me anything, and just let her know I was happy for her and hope it all worked out. Well, last week she told me she was dating Steve. They had gotten more serious, and she wanted to make their relationship public to the people they care about. She also said she knew how much I disliked him and what he had done to my sister, and hoped I would try to understand their love and be happy for her and try to see him in a different light. I was a little shocked at first, since I really didn't expect her to be with a guy like him, and she knew what kind of person and boyfriend he was. But it isn't my place, and I told her that I'm happy she's happy, and that was that. Well, 2 days later, we are texting about the wedding and everything, and she mentioned Steve being her plus one. I do not want him there. Not only because I know my sister, who's my maid of honor, doesn't want him there, but also because I don't like him and neither does my fiancé. I immediately told her that Steve was not invited to the wedding. She was confused, and I explained to her that I was sorry and I'm happy for her, but I didn't want him there. At first, she thought it was just because my sister would be, and kept saying that they wouldn't even be near each other and it would be fine. But then I explained that with everything that happened, we didn't want him there. I said sorry again, but she kept saying how I don't want her to be happy, how I just want to live in the past, how I want to punish her for finding love, stuff like that. None of that is true, and I tried to tell her that, but she stopped responding. So now I'm left feeling like a complete a-hole, and I don't know if I should just let Steve come or not. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. She wants to bring the guy that cheated on your sister, a person that you are very close to and isn't a wedding party, to your wedding? I think you're in the clear here. I can almost guarantee she didn't start talking to him 8 months ago either. 10,000% this. Hence the BS secrecy. I assume Steve was cheating with her when he was with your sister. But how the heck would they not be near each other in the same venue? Your wedding is not a platform for their crappy coming out. And invite her and don't think twice about it. Enjoy your beautiful drama-free wedding, guilt-free. If it ends your pseudo-friendship, so be it. She sounds a bit unhinged anyway. Your wedding is not a platform for their crappy coming out. This is the thing. Amanda and Steve are hoping to use the wedding as their way to reintegrate into the OP social circle and make OP's sister the bad guy for any lingering resentment. So tacky. Just uninvite Amanda kindly and directly. I am happy if you're happy. But you did choose a partner who has a bad history with my sister, who is very important to me. It's simply not possible for Steve to ever attend a wedding. I don't want him there. It's not up for debate. I think it's best if you don't come either. You're not the a-hole. P.S. You know Steve had Amanda on the line while he was with your sister, right? Even if she's not the other woman, she's the one he monkey branched to right after your sister dumped him. So he was, at least, laying the groundwork with chats, etc. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my fiancé money for his habit? Me, 27 female, and my fiancé, 28 male, have been going through some financial and marital struggles. I've been at my job for 2 years, and my income is a pretty good amount. Fiancé, let's call him Tyler, works a minimum wage fast food job. I've never brought up the income difference to him, mainly because it doesn't really matter who the breadwinner is and he loves his job. Recently, over the course of 4 months, he has been spending well above his means, including some of my paychecks and even savings. I have 2 car payments, insurances, bills, etc., which does help with bills, but not the cars because I believe they are my vehicles, my responsibility. We live in a state where weed is legal, and that's where most of the money is going. I've tried keeping us afloat to no avail. I've begged him to cut down on how much he buys, and he always says he will, but never does. We've had multiple arguments regarding this. So far, we've had to move due to not being able to afford the rent due to said spending habits. So we decided mutually it would be beneficial to move back in with our parents as to save money. I finally put my foot down when we lost our home and told him I was separating finances at exits and that I would no longer be helping support his habit. He also recently lost his job due to his habit and not wanting to go to work, so he's no longer contributing. He's been begging me for money for his habit, and I told him no. He called me a selfish a-hole, went on about how I always brag about my pay, which I've never done due to wanting to stay humble. I didn't come from much, and I'm trying to build a better life than what I had, and said that he needed money for food, gas, etc. Now, I have no problem helping him with necessary things as such, but I know that whatever money I give him will go to his habit. I feel bad for not giving him anything, and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole because what if he really does need it for said necessities? But I've given him money in the past for that and it went to his habit. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, except for how much of an a-hole you're being to yourself for planning to marry this guy. You can do so much better. Please respect yourself enough to leave. This. And also, OP, you should consider getting rid of 1 car and cutting bills. You said you were in good income but lost your home because of his minimum wage paycheck not contributing and dipping into savings. I'm assuming your rainy day fund went to a lot of weed? Lose the boyfriend, cut back, and go about your life. Not the a-hole for saying no. But if you stay with him and try to purchase another property and then lose it again whether it's splurging on weed or not as a cause, then I would have no sympathy for you at all. Not the a-hole. Coming from a fellow user, I can tell you that this isn't a habit. It's an addiction. When it gets to the point where you spend all your money on it, it's a clear issue. I know you love him and all, but it truly sounds like you guys have different priorities and want different things. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders and shouldn't be waiting around for some loser. Sorry. As a fellow smoker, you're 100% right. I actually stopped using for a while because it was a luxury I couldn't afford, and nothing helps my insomnia/pain better than ganja. But if it comes down to paying bills/buying food or getting it, it has got to take a backseat. This guy definitely has a problem if he's losing his job/home. Update. I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be my friend just because he cheated on us both. Original post. I don't understand why I'm in this situation, and honestly, I'm frustrated because even my own family tells me I'm the bad one here. I just need to vent. I don't need advice or people saying, do this, you should tell her this, or I would write her this. Over 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman I didn't know, but she knew who I was. He left me for her when our only daughter was a baby, and I just moved on with my life. I wasn't going to fight for a man who made immature decisions without thinking of the consequences. He married that woman, and I focused on having a healthy co-parenting relationship for my daughter. He never showed any remorse, even telling me that our relationship was a mistake and that the other woman was the love of his life. That helped me see he's not someone I want or need in my life. Now he's cheated on her, and for some reason, this woman, who's always had a cold, distant relationship with me, is trying to talk to me every day. I found out about his infidelity through my daughter, who wasn't affected by it, so I didn't give it much thought. My only concern was whether he'd still be able to have our daughter over on the weekends like usual. But his wife has started sending me messages explaining what happened, even though I never asked her. In the past, I only reached out to her if he didn't answer a question about our daughter. It's obvious she needs someone to talk to, but even when I respond briefly, she keeps sending me long voice messages about it. I get that she's going through something, but why come to me? I don't want to be rude, but I really don't care about how she or he feels. In one of her messages, she said, "You know how I feel now." And yes, maybe I do, but that was 17 years ago. It's not the same. To be completely honest, she can't compare her situation to mine at all. I was a new mom when my husband told me he'd been cheating because I was boring in bed and didn't appreciate him. She, on the other hand, knew he was unfaithful when she married him. So it's not quite the same situation. I've tried ignoring her, but when I bring it up with my family or friends, almost all of them say things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely. She wasn't to blame for being the other woman. You should be more empathetic." Or my favorite, "She needs someone to talk to." They're basically telling me it's my responsibility as a feminist to support her. I get that she's not to blame for him being a cheater, but as a full-grown adult, she chose to marry a man she knew had cheated with her while his wife was pregnant. So why should I now feel obligated to be her support system? When she had a choice to do the right thing, she didn't. So why is it suddenly my duty to be her friend? It doesn't make sense, and the women around me keep insisting I should feel empathy for her. She and he knew exactly what they were getting into, and I don't see why I need to be her free therapist. Being cheated on isn't my whole personality, and I don't want to talk about it with her 24/7. I'm just going to keep ignoring her because, frankly, I don't care how she feels, even if that makes me a bad feminist for not empathizing. Edit? No, I can't block her because she still lives with him, and I need to have her contact info in case of an emergency with my daughter. Honestly, it's strange how many people are commenting and messaging me about what I should say to her or even drafting messages for me. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to use words from strangers who don't know me, my feelings, or the full situation. It feels like people are projecting their own issues onto my post. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Personally, I just find your family really weird. Just from the title, the situation seemed so absurd that it made me laugh. You don't owe her anything. Tell her to find a therapist because you don't care. My mother was someone's lover, so she has the mentality of, you can't judge the lives of others. It wasn't her fault to fall in love. So that's kind of the way she and my siblings think. I'd be brutally honest with her, just like you were in the post. You're absolutely right. You can't compare your situation from 17 years ago to hers now. She knew exactly what she was getting into, and now she has to lie in the bed she made. You're not her therapist, and honestly, she shares the blame for sleeping with a married man, knowing his wife was carrying his child. As for your family, I don't even know how to describe it. Your mom justifying her own actions like that? Ew. At one point, I thought about being totally honest, but then I thought that would only bring unnecessary problems if they get back together because it seems like it. I just answer things like, "What a shame," or downcast face with sweat emoji. And she sends me audios of more than 2 minutes that I don't usually listen to because I don't care. Something very similar just happened to me. My abusive ex's new wife had a breakdown and left him, then showed up at my door wanting to hang out. We've always had a polite but distant relationship. Luckily, I was out of town and told her we could hang out when I got back. Truth is, I don't want to hang out with her, and I definitely don't want to rehash all the crap he put me through. I'm in no mood to be back in that space. Plus, there's the whole issue of her putting up with it for so long. She dealt with way more than I did, but my family seems to think that staying together through abuse is somehow an accomplishment. Anyway, I just humored her and kept flaking until she left me alone. That was years ago for me. I'm over it. I don't want to go back, and I don't want to hear about what she went through. I've already heard enough from my kids. My family had the same reaction. They used to say that in the end, my ex and his wife were really soulmates, just because they were together for 17 years. Now for the update 2 weeks later. Hi, it's been a while since I posted, and I just want to give a little update for those who are concerned. First of all, a bit of background. My mother had a long-term affair while I was a teenager and well into my adulthood. Their relationship lasted for years until he died, and I don't think his wife ever found out. That's why my mother tries to manipulate me into not judging my ex's wife, saying things like, no one chooses who they fall in love with. She sees herself in that woman, which is why she's always said that my ex-husband and his lover, now his wife, are soulmates, and that I shouldn't stand in the way. I was very young at the time, and my mother was the only person I could turn to for a bit of support. Narcissists always prey on the vulnerable, and she took full advantage. Now, I have limited contact with her, though my daughter does spend time with my family. As for my friends, and opinions about the other woman vary. Many believe it's misogynistic to judge them because they're single women and it's the man who should be blamed, and we should show solidarity with other women. I usually agree with that perspective, but not in this case. I can feel empathy when the woman didn't know or was a minor being groomed. But here, I have no pity. She knew exactly what she was doing. Women can also choose to be mean and cruel. We're not weak, and my ex's wife is fully accountable for her choices. I know that explanation might be unnecessary, but some people didn't understand my family's or friends' behavior. And honestly, it feels good to vent. So a few days ago, I actually confronted my ex's wife. I'd had an incredibly stressful day, and seeing her messages pop up on WhatsApp pushed me over the edge. I sent her a voice message, telling her I'm not interested in her life or her suffering. I said I'm not her friend, nor do I want to be. She never apologized for her actions, and now she expects me to join her support group for women cheated on by my ex? I let her know that she walked into this with full knowledge of who he was. Knowing he'd already cheated on the mother of his child, she married him anyway, believing she'd be different. I'd love to post that audio here. It was 5 full minutes of catharsis, telling her exactly how I felt. She got upset and we ended up arguing, which was exhausting. I definitely don't want issues to disrupt 17 years of normal co-parenting. I forwarded one of her audios to my ex, after listening to all of them and realizing she hasn't once apologized. Not that I need her apology. She just complained, looking for someone to trash him with or act as her unpaid therapist. I told my ex to tell his wife to back off and find a real therapist. He apologized and said they're both working on their marriage, so she's still dealing with anger and insecurity, obviously. Since I went through the same thing, he said she thought we could share the pain. I told him I'm not her friend, and this affects our co-parenting, so he needs to make sure she respects my boundaries. He reluctantly agreed to talk to her, and for the past 3 days, I haven't received any messages from her, aside from one today letting me know my daughter was sleeping over there. So it seems like it worked. I don't care if they have a happy or miserable marriage, and I don't care if she's happy knowing he cheated but still stays with him. I just want to live in peace, free of drama from people who, at over 40, are still mentally stuck in high school. Karma said, hold my purse. Lol. They'll cheat with you, then on you. Mistress and your mom are so delusional, it's crazy. You should give your ex's wife your mom's number. That's the perfect shoulder for her to cry on, since they can bond as mistresses. Good for you setting boundaries and standing up for yourself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my soon-to-be ex-husband why I'd take him back when the nanny does more for the family than he does? My husband and I are separated and getting a divorce. We have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. He owns his own business and told me he'd be home by 5:30 to 6 every night. I get home around 6 to 6:30, so I didn't think anything of him always being home before me. I had our 3-year-old in extended daycare and our 8-year-old in our school's after-school program thinking he was working. Halfway through last school year, I hired a nanny instead of using the extended care programs. After our oldest had issues with her program. About 2 weeks in, I got a call from the nanny saying my soon-to-be ex had locked them out and told her to take them to the park. The kids were hungry and she didn't have car seats. His house is walking distance from school and daycare, so she hadn't needed them. I called him and he said he'd gotten home early, wanted some space from the kids, and didn't want a random 18-year-old in the house. I had to leave work early to let them in. When I spoke with the nanny, she mentioned she was always home when she got there with the kids and that he was difficult, demanding that she and the kids stay in one of the kids' rooms, ignoring the kids if they try to talk to him, and getting upset if she left the room to grab his snack. That was the last straw for me. I filed for divorce by the end of the following week, and the kids and I moved out by the end of the next month. I ended up letting go of that nanny, and now we have Amina, 24. Amina is a Middle Eastern refugee with 3 kids of her own, ages 2, 4, and 7. Hiring Amina has been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I come home every day to a clean house, homework done, and some of the best Arabic food I've ever tasted. I have no idea how she manages it all, but her support allows me to enjoy my time with my kids, instead of scrambling to make dinner, clean up, and get my 8-year-old to do her homework. She handles grocery shopping, keeps track of school events, and even takes care of things like clothes and school supply shopping for the kids. My soon-to-be ex never did any of that. I once left him with the kids for a week while I went on a work trip, and they lived on McDonald's and pizza, which wrecked my 8-year-old's stomach. When I came back, the house was in the worst shape I'd ever seen. Our 2-year-old, at the time, ran out of clean clothes, and he bought her new ones instead of washing the dirty ones. Now he is asking about getting back together, saying it's better for the kids if we're together. I told him he's never truly thought about what's best for the kids. Even when he takes them for the weekend, all he does is bring them to Grandma's house. I ask him why I should go back to him when Amina does more for us than he ever did. He argued that he works to provide for us, as if that's different from me also working. Apparently close to double the hours he worked, and for similar pay. Now his family is calling me a bad mom, saying that if I cared about the kids, I'd want them to have 2 parents. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I personally would marry Amina. Having a neglectful, abusive parent is worse than a single parent. Ask any child psychologist. What you're describing is not laziness. It's straight-out abuse. You can lose your kids if CPS had been called in that last situation. You really need to think about the kids and not what society told us about what's good for the kids. 100%. If he doesn't live there, the kid grows up to believe he loved them, but unfortunately wasn't able to live there and be around to show it. If he's there and kicking them out the house and getting angry when they approach him, they're at risk for developing all sorts of insecurities. He doesn't seem mature enough to be trusted with your children's mental well-being. You do not have to give a reason to anyone for not wanting to reconcile. If they insist, then I found that I am happier, the kids are more stable, and our lives run more smoothly as things are right now. That's it. No one is owed an explanation for your decision, not even the soon-to-be ex. Ex just wants to get back together because I bet he hates paying child support and not being taken care of by OP. Screw him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my estranged son nor meeting his child? I haven't slept in nearly 2 days, so please excuse any grammar mistakes. I'm from a country where bullying isn't taken seriously. I'm using fake names to protect my other 2 children, who I'll call Eve and Henry. I lost one of my daughters, Rose, 15 years ago due to relentless bullying by a group who never faced any consequences. One of the people responsible was Sarah, who is now married to my son, Mike. Apparently, they met in university, connected, and started a relationship. A former classmate sent a video of them on a date to Eve. When we confronted Mike, he broke down saying Sarah was sorry and gave a million excuses. He even said that Rose made her own decision and that we couldn't blame Sarah. He added that if we try to make him choose, he would choose Sarah. I told him he didn't need to choose because from that day on, I had 2 dead children and that he should never contact me again. His father and siblings did the same. The only family members who didn't cut him off were his aunt and cousin. Over the years, they tried to reach out with apologies, wedding invitations, and even pictures of their son. I thought Mike understood when he wasn't notified until 2 weeks after his father's funeral. But 2 days ago, he showed up at Henry's workplace to tell him that his wife, Sarah, has terminal cancer and that he needs me because he can't handle it all on his own. Mike then showed up at my house with his son, refusing to leave until I spoke to him. After about 4 hours, I opened the door and told him to leave. Mike tried to force me to meet his child, saying his son was innocent and that Sarah has repented for her role in Rose's bullying, urging me to forgive them. I told him that Sarah's cancer is karma, to which he responded by asking how I could be so cruel, not only to them but to their child. I told him I didn't care about his child or what happens to either of them, and to get off my property before I called Henry to have him removed. His aunt, my sister-in-law, called, saying I'm a selfish, cruel mother who can't let go of the past. She mentioned that Rose wouldn't have held anything against the child. I told her no one was stopping her from helping them, but she made excuses. One being that it wasn't her place, even though it wasn't her place to give Mike my address or Henry's. Am I the a-hole for not helping them? What a deeply painful experience this must have been for you. Losing a child, especially under those circumstances, is an unimaginable hurt. And when a close family member is connected to that loss, the betrayal you feel becomes even more overwhelming. The fact that Mike's life has moved on with Sarah, knowing the pain her actions contributed to, is a lot to take in. You made a choice to protect yourself and your other children from further hurt, especially after how Mike responded when confronted. So, it's understandable why you would hesitate to open the door to that part of your past again, especially without real accountability or meaningful actions to heal the past wounds. Mike may be asking for help, but it doesn't mean you have to forget the impact their choices had on you and your family. It's a deeply personal decision on whether to help Mike or meet his child. But remember, you are allowed to honor what feels safe and healthy for you. How do you feel about holding firm on that boundary? I know helping Mike will cost me losing contact with Eve. They were very close to Rose, and they witnessed some of the bullying. Update. I found out the actual reason my mom lost custody of me, and I don't know if I can ever look at her again. Original post. I was removed from my mother's care by DCFS when I was 11 years old due to allegations of SA post against my stepfather. He was convicted by those crimes, but took a plea deal which meant he'd be out by the time I was 13. And from what I can remember, I don't even know that he served those 2 full years anyway. I was his primary victim. I don't remember how old I was when it started, but the earliest he admitted to was when I was 8. I don't know if my mom knew before DCFS got involved or if she found out afterwards, but now I don't think it would have mattered to her if she was aware. After being put into temporary custody of the state while the legal issues were sorted out, eventually I was placed with a relative and her husband, who later adopted me when it was clear my mother wouldn't be getting me back. My adoptive parents put me in therapy, got me the help I needed, did everything they could to make me feel safe again. Something they never prevented me from was speaking to my mother. I was always able to call or text her, and she was always allowed to come visit me, but I could never go and see her. I didn't really question it as a kid. I assumed it was some stipulation the courts made. I believed growing up that the reason my mom hadn't gotten me back was because of neglect, I guess. I assumed that the court thought it was partly her fault, that I had been left unattended with that man so often, or that it took someone else noticing I was physically injured for something to be done about it. My adoptive parents never challenged these assumptions I had, and they always told me that they would never stop me from having a relationship with my mom, so long as that's what I wanted. Once I turned 18, my mom and I started talking more frequently, but we didn't see each other in person often. I never really thought much of it at first, but as the years went by, I started questioning the circumstances of my removal and subsequent adoption. I was confused as to why a woman with no prior issues with the law would have had her child taken from her in such a cut and dry way. I decided to ask my adoptive parents about it, and they very gently informed me that my mother was told that in order for her to regain custody of me, her husband, my abuser, would be required to leave the home and could not under any circumstances come near me. Not only because he was an offender, but because I was the victim. My mother evidently could not meet these conditions, and so I was adopted by my relatives. When I worked up the courage to ask my mom if it was true, she didn't deny it. She told me she loved him, that he was a good man who made a mistake. They said that she could have her daughter or she could stay with her husband, and she chose him. She picked him over me. I don't even know what to do with the things I'm feeling now. I feel sick just thinking about it. She's my mother, and she knew what he did. He was convicted of sexually abusing her 11-year-old child, and she refused to leave him. For the past 12 years, she has willingly slept in a bed next to the man that assaulted her daughter. She has stayed married to the man who hurt me. My adoptive parents said they were advised by the therapist to let me figure it out in my own time. as my mother, despite picking that man over me, never made any move to have me near him again. She just wasn't willing to make him leave so that I could be with her. Evidently, the therapist thought it would be more detrimental in the long run to keep me from communicating with my mother entirely. None of that makes me feel better. The past few days have felt like a nightmare. I don't understand how she could stay with him. I don't understand why she chose a monster over her child. I'm trying to understand why my adoptive parents didn't tell me, but to be honest, I don't really understand their reasoning either. My mom has been texting me, but I haven't answered. I can't even think about her without feeling nauseous, or so angry I want to cry, or both. My adoptive parents keep checking in on me, but I've only answered the phone for them because I don't want them to drive here out of concern. I really don't even know what to do anymore. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your adoptive parents consulted with medical professionals on how to deal with this. They took that advice because they didn't want to cause you more harm and because they love you. They were putting you first because you were their priority over their own feelings. How do I know that? Because I had a family member in a similar situation. It ripped them to pieces every time their child had contact with a parent that refused to protect them, knowing that child was being harmed repeatedly. Everything your adoptive parents did, they did it out of love for you, no matter how hard it was on them. I will be honest, I don't understand people like your mother. Children should be protected at all costs. At the very least, you need time and distance from her. You may be able to forgive her, but don't trust her. If it were me, that relationship would be over. If you're not in counseling still, then please find counseling. This is a horrendous thing to deal with, and just too hard for a person to do on their own. Sending good thoughts and wishes for your healing. Thank you. I really appreciate this perspective. I know they made choices for me based on what they thought would help me most in the end. This is just such an, I don't know, insane thing to try and process. I feel like I'm kind of losing it. I don't understand my mother either. I don't know how she's able to sleep at night knowing the things that man did. I can't wrap my mind around it. I do have a therapy appointment coming up soon, unrelated to this specific part of my situation, so I'm going to have professional help in dealing with this. I'm just feeling really lost and overwhelmed right now. One of the most disturbing things is that your mom calls her husband sexually assaulting you for years since you were 8 years old a mistake. Her husband made a mistake, and that's a profound level of delusional belief because it was his decision to violate you for years and only stopped because the authorities were involved. The crime is not a mistake, it's a planned, premeditated decision. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that part. The way she called it a mistake said that he is a good man. She dismissed it as though he didn't make a conscious choice to go into my bedroom every night for 3+ years, like it was an accident or somehow unintentional. The good man she's married to is a predator who will be on the registry for the rest of his life for the things he did to me. I assumed my mother would have loved me enough to at least acknowledge the severity of what my stepfather had done. Evidently, I was wrong. Are you mad at your adoptive parents for not letting you know you were sexually assaulted? What would you have preferred they do instead? As far as your mom, don't talk to her again because she clearly doesn't love you. I'm not mad at my parents. I'm just having a hard time processing their choice not to tell me my mother remained married to my abuser all these years. I've spent all this time trying to connect with her in some way. But if I had known that she had chosen over a decade ago to stay with a predator instead of get me back, I think I would have cut my losses much sooner. I don't really know how I feel about it right now, but I'm not really mad at them. I know they did their best. Also, they didn't have to inform me that I was abused. Believe me, I was/am very aware. Now for the update. I guess I wanted to write a little bit of an update. I didn't expect so many people to see the post. Honestly, I just needed to vent, and I didn't want to dump any of that on my friends or family. I had a therapy session earlier in the week, so I was able to bring this revelation up to my therapist, and we're going to work on ways to help me process this. That's obviously something that's going to take time, but I'm sure eventually I'll find a way to live with it. Right now, I still don't know how to unpack any of the feelings I have about this. I do understand why my adoptive parents went about it the way they did. In the moment, being given that information was just a lot to comprehend and deal with, and I felt betrayed. Not necessarily by them, but I think I did put some of those feelings onto them. That wasn't really fair, and I did try to apologize, but they aren't upset with me for it. They told me they felt I didn't have anything to be sorry for. They know firsthand how difficult this is for me, and they told me they were already expecting the reaction I had. My adoptive mom said that if she had been in my shoes, she would have been upset too, even if that feeling wasn't entirely directed at the right people. I did speak to them about how I felt and ask if they could tell me a little more about why they decided to handle it the way they did. They said that when they got custody of me and saw all the ways the trauma from my early childhood manifested, they wanted to do everything they could to make sure I would be able to grow up as cared for and well-adjusted as possible. When the therapist encouraged them not to tell me the truth or challenge my belief that I'd been removed from my mom because of neglect, they followed that advice. The doctors and my parents thought it was best for me to realize and understand my mother's choice on my own. They said I had already been failed by so many adults in my life who were supposed to protect me, and they didn't want to add to that list. My adoptive dad also mentioned wanting me to be able to enjoy at least part of my childhood without a revelation like that hanging over my head. Looking back on it all, I really appreciate that. I don't remember much of my childhood up until I was placed in my adoptive parents' custody, and what I can remember isn't great, but the childhood they gave me made up for that in spades. I know the choices my adoptive parents made for me were made with my best interest in mind. I love them, and I know everything they did was out of love for me too. I feel like people misinterpreted what I was saying in my last post about my feelings toward them, so I just wanted to clarify that part. Regarding my mother, I essentially told her that I wasn't interested in speaking again, given everything I know now. I don't know how she took it because I've since blocked her number. My parents have agreed to reiterate that message from me if she contacts them, but I don't think she will. I'm never reaching out to her again. I can't do it. I think part of me is always going to wonder why she did the things she did. But based on all the answers she's given to my questions so far, I'm not sure her honesty would be very helpful to me in the long run. Thank you for your words of encouragement and kindness. I really needed them in that moment, and I truly appreciate you all for it. Proud of you. I'm glad everything worked out. Keep your mom out of your life. Finally, we have a post where the kid's treating the adoptive parents with love and respect. I didn't read your first post until I saw this edit. I look at my precious 2-year-old and I really can't understand what parents wouldn't get rid of people who would hurt their precious one. I held my little one as a potato, saw him take his first steps, watch him develop and grow. My heart hurt earlier today when my toddler hit me unintentionally in the mouth and I yelped loudly in pain and saw his little lip quiver as he started to cry. I held him so tightly because even though he hurt me, he felt it more. I would get rid of anyone who hurt my son. I'd have to fight off any murderous rage. Your birth mom failed you massively. I'm glad you've got your adoptive family. Last story. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my mom said she'd hope I would care for my stepdad in his old age? For some context, my mom broke up our family when I was 6 and my brother was 11 to be with my stepdad. Our dad moved to a neighboring state, and we only got to see him every other weekend. I've only connected all these details as an adult. My brother and I are now both in our 30s, and my dad didn't share details of the divorce until the last few years. To say I lost a lot of respect for my mom and stepdad is an understatement. My mom chose to replace our dad with an angry alcoholic and thought we'd make a big happy family. Hint, it never happened. I forgive them, it was years ago, but the respect is gone. Growing up with them was stressful and like walking on eggshells. If I had a disagreement with my stepdad, my mom would come home and only talk to him about what happened before giving me a punishment. The day my brother graduated high school, he moved out. We both had nothing but disdain for my stepdad. He got drunk every single day and was mean. Not physically, but verbally. I'll never forget being called a whore for going on a date with my boyfriend or the time we followed a young woman to her home after she flipped us off on the road. After I became an adult and got married at a young age, our relationship improved. I've now been married for almost 13 years, and we have 2 little girls together. When my stepdad comes to our house, we get along great. When we went back to their home for Thanksgiving a few years ago, it was very stressful. Many parts of me felt like I was stepping back into high school again. Fast forward to a conversation I had with my mom recently. We were discussing children taking in their parents in their old age. Something I might add, my mom never did for my grandma after my grandpa died. Why? Because my stepdad couldn't live with her. None of her other 3 kids took her in either, and she managed okay, passing away in her own home with my mom and aunt at her side. Anyhow, we were discussing this subject and how many parents might be taken in by their children after their spouses pass away. For example, my mom coming to stay with us after my stepdad passes away, my mother-in-law, or my dad, etc. She said she hopes that if she passed away, I would consider taking my stepdad in if he were elderly. I actually laughed out loud before even considering how my reaction might hurt her feelings. First of all, even if it were my own dad, I would prefer to take in one of our moms if I'm going to be a primary caregiver. And of course, if we never actually took anyone into our home, we would still help and support them however we could. But my mom expecting this of me with my stepdad? What magical land is this where irony doesn't exist? I have never considered him a father figure. He played a huge role in breaking apart my family at a young age and refused to take in my terminally ill grandma when she needed it most. So am I the a-hole for laughing? How did she react? And how did she not know this man made your lives miserable under her roof? Her eyes widened in shock. I immediately said, "Sorry, didn't mean to laugh that loud, but we basically already called dibs on my mother-in-law." She changed the subject, thank God. And she knew we all hated each other. She dated him for 5 years before marrying him, and she had plenty of chances to prioritize her kids, but she never did. If she prioritized her kids, she would have honored her original vows to my dad. Opie, I think you need to take a serious look at your relationship with your mom. You say the relationships have gotten better after you moved out and got married. Isn't that because they can no longer control you the way they did when you were a child? Your mom clearly still does not respect you, and she won't even acknowledge the abuse they both perpetrated. They're better when they come to you, but when you got to their house, where they feel in control, they become abusive again. Why do you want your children to have a relationship with 2 abusers and 1 alcoholic? I strongly suggest getting some counseling to unpack your feelings about this. You say you forgave them, but did you really acknowledge your own feelings and hurts? Or did you just bury it all for the sake of keeping the peace? Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Do you have a daughter? What will you do when he calls her a whore? My mom and stepdad are not on the list of people who are allowed to watch our children, which frankly is a small opportunity because they don't live in our state. They've offered a few times to let my husband and me take a weekend trip, and we have declined. They also know that my husband's brother and sister-in-law are our kids' godparents. We also don't visit their house anymore because of the Thanksgiving experience. So far, it's working out, and they don't mind coming here. Generally, they're on their best behavior because other families always around with us. I might seek a counselor because, besides venting to my husband, I really don't know how to come to terms with how I feel about them after learning the whole truth about their relationship. I often think if my mom makes the wrong comment or pushes me too far one day, I might unload on her. No, you're not the a-hole. Given your history with him and your mom's request, it's understandable to laugh at something that feels so ironic. I agree, not the a-hole. Your mom's request is pretty out there considering the history between you and your stepdad. Honestly, she was pushing her luck even asking if you'd take her in. But to ask it for a man who is neither a blood relation nor a father figure and made your childhood miserable is absurd. Not the a-hole. At all. You deserve to keep your home a safe haven for yourself.
Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give my friend her key back? Original post. I became friends with a couple, female 26 and male 31, when they moved to my city about 3 years ago. I met them together and am closer with the wife, but still friends with her husband. About a year ago, the wife moved to another city for her job while the husband stayed behind to finish his master's degree. In September, I got a call from the wife. She was inconsolable and admitted she had a brief affair, but ended it because she wanted to focus on her marriage. The affair partner did not take it well, found a husband, and told him everything in painful detail, complete with screenshots and photo evidence. The husband was obviously blindsided and devastated. They are still living in 2 separate states, and the husband has gone low to no contact with the wife, asking for space. She has been incredibly emotional since this happened. I've been in contact with her multiple times a day just to check in and let her know she's loved and important, but she's understandably been a mess. I've seen the husband a few times and let him know that the wife told me what happened. I told him I just wanted him to know I'm here if he needs anything. My goal has been to be there for both of my friends and not take sides. To me, this situation comes down to bad decisions that had painful consequences. There's no villain in this story. People are not the sum of their mistakes. Fast forward to the present day, the wife has been served divorce papers. She wants to talk to the husband in person, but he doesn't. He agreed to FaceTime if they do speak. She now wants to fly here without telling him and show up on his doorstep to fight for the marriage. They have a door code to their apartment that they use daily, as well as a key they gave me about a year ago when I was watching their pets. When I went to return the key, the husband told me to hang on to it. He has since changed the door code, so she currently has no way to enter the apartment if he's not home. She's also worried he won't let her in if he knows it's her, although I don't think that would be the case, but who knows? She asked me to pick her up from the airport and give her the key so she can get in. I told her I'm not comfortable with that because I don't want the husband to feel betrayed or think I was part of an ambush. She plans to arrive at 10 p.m. unannounced, which I think is a terrible idea. I'd be spooked if it were me. Even though he's former military, I just don't think surprising anyone that late is a good idea. I suggested that if she Ubers to the apartment and he won't let her in, or isn't home, I could still drive. I'm only 15 minutes away, and give her the key then. But she said no. She's still on a lease, so she legally has the right to enter the apartment, but I'm reluctant to give her the key up front. So am I the a-hole to him if I give her the key, or am I the a-hole to her if I don't give it to her up front? Edit. I should clarify that they were still together when they gave me the key, which is part of why I was conflicted. She technically gave it to me, with him there. She had already moved for her job when I tried to return it, and he told me to keep it. This is a difficult situation because her mental health has declined significantly since this happened. She's had episodes of self-harm and suicidal thoughts, including making a plan and reaching out to me. I was able to coordinate with one of her friends in her city and convinced her to admit herself to the hospital for a 48-hour hold. Her mental health has been incredibly fragile. That doesn't excuse her choices, but during these episodes, she asked me to reach out to her husband to tell him the state she was in. I told her no, because I felt it was manipulative, and I also thought that whether he responded or not, it would impact her negatively either way. I encouraged her to work with her therapist instead. The support I've given her has solely been regarding her mental health. I haven't engaged in conversations with either of them about the other. She has mostly vented to me about her deep regret, remorse, guilt, and lack of self-worth because of her choices. As her friend, I've tried to support her as a vulnerable human being by reminding her that we are not the sum of our mistakes. While this is painful and has deep consequences, she still has so much to live for. I say all this because I've seen comments suggesting that I inserted myself into the middle of this, but this situation just escalated today. She asked me for the key and I told her I wasn't comfortable with that for the reasons I stated in my original post. She's obviously emotional, and since she technically gave me the key with this agreement, I reluctantly agreed. But my conscience is telling me that might not be the right decision, even though I'm trying to navigate a really intense and sensitive situation. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole for giving him the key or telling him to change the locks. Mail him the key and tell him to expect it. Do not let your friend hurt him anymore. She chose to cheat on her husband. There are consequences. What if you were in his shoes? How would you feel if your cheating ex was given keys to your home? Tell the husband you're returning the key. It's not your dance. Be upfront with him that you do not feel comfortable having the key. And as he's the one residing in the apartment, you're returning it to him. She's also trying to manipulate you. Do not get involved in their divorce issues. Yeah, the people who scream the loudest for help are not always the ones who suffer the most. You can suffer very well in silence. And most of the time, the people who ends their life, well, they just do it, with no warning, sadly. Coming when you know you're not welcomed is stalking behavior. And OP, she's not your friend. A true friend wouldn't ask you to do such thing. Do not get involved. Your friendship with both of them will irretrievably be changed. She lives further away and will more than likely not come back. He lives locally, so it's nice to have a friend you can trust. I would just say to her that she's putting you in an impossible situation and it isn't fair. You've been there for her throughout, but this is one step too far, and tell her you gave the key back if nothing else. Good luck. Thanks. You've made some really great points. I'm definitely not going to be giving her the key. Now for the first update. What a jolt this has been in a really short span of time. First, I do want to say that I absolutely think the choices she made were wrong, and so does she. She knows she messed up and has been torturing herself over it in some really intense ways. Ways that I am absolutely not qualified to help her navigate. However, I've tried to be a supportive friend because of the immediacy and severity of the help she needed at a time. Thanks to everyone for the perspective. I think I've been so worried about her emotional state over the last few months that I've been too close to it to see what some of you are saying. That she's been a bit manipulative with me, especially when I told her I wasn't comfortable giving her the key. I'm going to call her tomorrow and let her know that I'm not giving it to her. I really appreciate the snap out of it slap that a lot of you provided. Second update. Update on the wife. I let her know this morning that I wouldn't be giving her the key. As many of you predicted, she instantly responded with complete vitriol. No discussion. No, please reconsider. None of that. Just straight to, I can't believe you right now. I can't rely on anyone. Thanks a lot. And fine, you will regret it. That last one was a bit unexpected. I probably would have been shocked if I hadn't read the feedback on this post beforehand. So I was honestly unfazed and just responded that I don't support what she's trying to do. Like a few people mentioned, if the roles were reversed and the husband was asking me to do this, I would absolutely be saying the same thing. I told her she needs to respect my decision because it's not going to change. Among other things, she told me I was ruining everything. I let her know that, unfortunately, she is the one who has ruined everything with the decisions she's made in the past, and that it's time for her to start taking accountability and stop looking for people to blame. I also told her that I would be giving the key back to the husband and letting him know what she was planning. She lost it. Lots of swearing, lots of self-pity, and even threats of self-harm. She also said I wasn't a good friend to her. That's when I had enough. I told her I was done being a punch bag for her. I reminded her that I've been a good friend to her when no one else was supporting her, and that I've stood by her through some dark times. I said her selfishness has finally crossed a line with me. I ended it by saying that she's in a dangerous state of mind and needs to reach out to her therapist and share our conversation so they can provide an objective view. I told her that she needs help I can no longer give and that I'm done. She sent me 2 apology texts about 5 minutes later, but I haven't responded and don't plan to. If she somehow shows up at my door after flying in tomorrow, I won't answer. Updates on husband. I let him know everything this morning. We're good, and we've made plans for me to return the key. She's supposed to fly in tomorrow night and leave Saturday. He actually won't even be in town this weekend. You absolutely did the right thing. Block her number and be careful answering your door, just in case. Thank you. I did, and I will. If there's somewhere local you've always thought about visiting, cafe, museum exhibition, etc., maybe treat yourself to a day trip away from your place on Saturday. Just in case. Thanks. Luckily, I'm working at a client's house, so I won't be around. You did the right thing. she showed her true face, which to be honest was no surprise to those of us who read the story. This is who she is, and it's good you recognize that now. The best next step would be to block her. You don't need to be swayed or annoyed by a deluge of sorry not sorry this is who I am texts. Agreed, and I have. Honestly, given her reaction when he initially found out about her cheating, I don't think her little surprise visit plan was anything that hadn't already crossed his mind. Agreed, he didn't seem at all surprised when I told him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking back the spare key after my sister let her boyfriend in without asking? Here's the situation. I, 30 female, recently moved into a new place, and being the nice sister that I am, I gave my sister Maya, 26 female, a spare key in case of an emergency. You know, for situations like needing to get in for a repair person or something like that. Fast forward to last week when I was out of town for a few days, and I found out from my roommate that Maya had used the key to let her boyfriend in while I was at home. Apparently, she didn't ask me about it first. She just showed up with him and let him hang out at my place, saying it was convenient because she was nearby. I was pretty upset when I found out. I mean, we have a close relationship, but using the key without asking first feels like a big breach of trust. I didn't want her assuming she had free reign over my home when I'm not around. So, I told her I was taking the key back, and honestly, I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. But now she's furious with me. She says I'm being unreasonable and controlling, and that I should have been chill about it, because it was just her boyfriend coming over. To me, it's not just about her boyfriend coming over. It's about her not respecting boundaries, and the trust I placed in her by giving her the key. I don't know. Am I overreacting here? Should I have just let it slide? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Nothing more to say. She used to take advantage of you, and you don't owe her anything. She broke the rules, and now she faces the consequences. It's clear by how mad she's getting that she planned to further use your home and abuse your trust. Her reaction is even more of a reason why you should take back the key. If she still has it, I'd get one of the locks changed, as I'm sure she will have a spare cut for herself before handing it over. How on earth was her boyfriend coming over an emergency? She already broke your trust. You also have a roommate. The home is half her space that she pays for. Your sister bringing a stranger into you and your roommate's home without either of your express permission is wrong, and she knows it. Did you and your roommate both agree on who should be entrusted with an emergency key? Your sister is immature and not ready for the responsibility you entrusted her with. You were not the a-hole. Seriously, if I were the roommate, I'd be absolutely mad. OP is lucky they don't also have to deal with a rightfully angry roommate. You're not the a-hole. But I'm confused. Why would her boyfriend need to go into your place anyway? Was he meeting your sister there? If so, does she not have a place? It's strange that he would be there by himself. Just have a think about what a 26-year-old couple would want to use an empty house for just for a moment. Stuff they can't do at their parents' house. While OP's sister was 99% banging, sometimes just not having to be around parents is great, especially if you don't have a place of your own. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law out of my house for the things he said about me? I, 26 female, and my boyfriend, 28 male, threw a housewarming party last night since we just got our dream home after we got a massive promotion. I'm currently 5 months pregnant with our first child. This was not planned but was a happy surprise. We have both always wanted to be parents, so we decided to keep the baby. All of our family came over to our house and it was amazing, until my brother-in-law, 22 male, opened his mouth. He joked to my boyfriend that I was clearly baby trapping him since this house was way too nice for my kind, and that he should have dated that Instagram model he dated before me, so his kids could have a fighting chance. For context, I'm Native American and from Wyoming, and my boyfriend and his family are Midwestern white. Without thinking clearly, I said, talk about projecting. Your girlfriend is a married single mother. If anything, you're the baby trapper. You don't even know your son's birthday. She didn't even want kids at first, but you argued about kids, and suddenly she's pregnant a month later. His girlfriend, 21 female, was also at the party. My boyfriend then kicked him out of our house after he had a fit over my comment and told him to never speak about his family ever again. His family, mostly his mother, is now blowing up my phone. She has sent me about 10 text messages and a couple of voice notes, blaming me for my brother-in-law's girlfriend finally breaking up with him and saying I sound like a jealous baby mama. Was I in the wrong for calling him a baby trapper and kicking him out? Did I overreact? I feel like I could have handled that better, but I'd rather have unbiased opinions from strangers on Reddit. Sorry if this is kind of all over the place. This baby is giving me the worst headaches. And I'm typing this on my lunch break. Edit to add. I did apologize to my sister-in-law that night it happened. She's now staying with me with her son until her mom is able to have a baby-safe environment in her home. My boyfriend defended me before my baby trapping comment. He's not a crappy boyfriend. I just didn't write that because it didn't feel important to my actions, which I'm asking about. He has always defended me, even over the smallest things. How does his mother think you're jealous? He called you a baby trapper with some racist crap on top, and you called him a baby trapper right back. Sounds like he can dish it out but can't take it, which is not surprising considering his mother clearly enables that behavior. The fact that your words helped his girlfriend realize who he really is and get out while she still has a fighting chance is something to be proud of. And good for your boyfriend for kicking his brother out. Now he needs to shut down the rest of the flying monkeys in his family, not the a-hole. I don't even know why his mother thinks I'm jealous. That's her baby boy, her words, so I think she's just trying to deflect his behavior and treatment of his girlfriend and child. I am glad she got out too. She's a sweet girl, an amazing mom to her son. Change baby boy to golden child. You aren't wrong. My boyfriend turned out great, but she fumbled the ball with her golden child. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you have a good boyfriend who has your back. His family, however, needs to pull their heads out of their hindquarters before they start talking about anyone. Brother-in-law openly insulted you in your own home and questioned your character with his horrid comments. He then doubled down by saying your boyfriend should have gotten with an Instagram model so his kids would have a fighting chance. Let your boyfriend know what his family is saying, and that if they don't stop, you will be blocking them. You don't need that kind of toxicity in your life or relationship. My boyfriend is aware of the texts they are sending me, and I've blocked them. He's going to be talking to them once he gets off work.